News alert right now. New details about the jihadi suspect accused of abusing children at a New Mexico compound. Prosecutors say Siraj Wahhaj was training them to carry out school shootings. The 11 sick and malnourished children were rescued last weekend from the heavily armed New Mexico compound built mostly out of trash. National security analyst Ryan Morrow has been assisting authorities on this case. We spoke to him earlier in the week, and now we're trying to unwind what happened here. How did they pick this location, and what was going on besides abuse?
Well, we now know that they were training the kids to carry out school shootings, and that's probably why they stopped practicing the shooting of their guns in recent weeks. They were doing it consistently, but apparently they decided that they need to conserve ammunition at some point recently. So either they're preparing for a raid, that's less likely, or they're going to act on these plans.
And what makes you think that?
Well, because if you're practicing and then you stop, and the only reason you would stop is because you're trying to conserve the ammo because you're in the middle of nowhere, you don't have access to more, that's the only conclusion I can come up with. But where did they get the skill and ideology for this? If you look at Imam Siraj Wahhaj, who's a radical imam in Brooklyn, and these are his family members, the guys he hangs out with believe in violent jihad, all sorts of radicalism, have a history of acquiring weapons, of paramilitary training, and people in his organization have trained kids. No evidence that the imam's tied to this specific compound, but where do you think these guys learned these skills from?
They do say that Siraj Wahhaj was named by prosecutors in the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. He was an unindicted co-conspirator. There's some questions around that. But what has your investigation revealed?
Well, the bottom line is that Imam Siraj Wahhaj was at least linked to the blind sheikh behind the World Trade Center bombing. That's all you really need to know about that part. But as part of my assistance to the authorities since the raid happened, I now can release some of the details of what I provided. Specifically, we did trace, the team that I work with, we did trace some of the leaders of the compound to some businesses that included one that is involved in security and investigations type businesses. The pattern we've seen is that extremists like setting up these front companies because it gives them an alibi for getting weapons legally, as well as getting training, even at law enforcement facilities potentially, and to get the type of access that they need. And they can just say, oh, look, it's part of my business. I also provided information about likely financial fraud and identity fraud.
And the FBI monitoring, but it took a sheriff to act. Has the FBI commented on what they were monitoring and what they were doing?
They have not answered the questions that they need to answer. And
has the sheriff tried?
The sheriff's press release basically said, look, we just finally decided we're going in on our own. The FBI felt they didn't have probable cause, which is crazy to me.
Ryan Morrow, thanks so much. Continue to follow this. It's going to be bigger by the day.